While I was away, my parents secretly sold my house and car to fund my sister's big dream. Still, I gave my parents a chance to fix it, but they laughed in my face. So I went to the police. My entire childhood was one long lesson in how little I mattered compared to my sister Amara, 29 female. From day one, the dynamic was crystal clear. Amara was the golden child who could do no wrong, and I was the workhorse who existed to make her life easier. Spoiler alert, nothing's changed except the dollar amounts. When I was 8, my parents got me a bike for my birthday after I'd been begging for months. Nothing fancy, just a regular kid's bike. I rode it exactly twice before Amara decided she wanted it. Despite having her own bike, a nicer one naturally, she threw a screaming fit. My parents' solution? They took my birthday present and gave it to her. Their explanation: she's younger and needs more attention. You're the big brother, you should understand. I got nothing to replace it. That was the first time I remember feeling that sick knot in my stomach when I realized where I stood in the family hierarchy. By the time I was 12, I was getting straight A's while Amara was barely passing classes. My report card, a quick nod. Amara bringing home C's and D's. She's just too creative for standardized education. The system doesn't understand special minds like hers. My parents hired private tutors for her while telling me to figure out my homework on my own because I was naturally smart. The most brutal example came when I was 17. I'd been working double shifts at a local grocery store for months, saving every penny for a laptop I needed for college applications. $1,200? Not a fortune, but it represented countless hours of stocking shelves and dealing with entitled customers. The day after I finally bought it, I came home to find Amara using my laptop. When I protested, my dad actually shoved me against the wall and told me to stop being so goddamn selfish. Amara had spilled coffee on her MacBook, her third one that year, and apparently the only solution was to give her mine. My mom's justification: college is years away for you. Amara needs it for her social media right now. I ended up using the ancient family desktop that crashed every 20 minutes. You want to know how manipulative Amara was? When I was 15, she got caught shoplifting makeup from the mall. Instead of taking her punishment, she told my parents I had pressured her into it and that I'd stolen stuff too, but didn't get caught. Complete BS. I was at freaking math club when she was at the mall. But guess who got grounded for a month? Me. When I tried to defend myself, my mom cried about how I was tearing the family apart, and my dad threatened to take away my college fund. So I just sat there and took the blame. Amara smirked at me behind their backs the whole time, knowing exactly what she was doing. She even had the nerve to ask me to help with her homework while I was grounded for her crime. And I did it because saying no would just make things worse. Classic Amara move: create the problem, blame someone else, then benefit from the fallout. And yeah, I was pathetically weak back then. Always caving, always saying it's fine, when it absolutely wasn't. There is this special kind of twisted pride parents like mine take in teaching their son to be selfless, which really means having no sense of self at all. I'd been guilt-tripped so many times that I basically came pre-guilt-tripped. It was simple. Amara wants something of mine. I say no. Parents make me feel like garbage. I give in. Everyone praises Amara for whatever accomplishment she achieved with my stuff. Rinse and repeat until completely dead inside. These weren't isolated incidents. This was my entire existence. The message was consistent. Amara was entitled to anything she wanted, including my things, my money, and eventually, as you'll see, my freaking house. And the real kicker the whole time, they were conditioning me to hand over everything I worked for. They were calling it being a good brother. Yeah, such a good brother that I was just an NPC in Amara's life. My only role was handing her everything I earned. Fast forward to adulthood. I busted my ass through college, working 30+ hours a week while taking a full course load. No help from my parents except for basic tuition. Everything else, food, books, housing, came out of my pocket. Meanwhile, Amara got a fully funded ride through an expensive private university complete with an apartment car and generous spending money. After graduation, I landed a job at a tech company, worked my way up to branch director, and was finally making good money, $350,000 annually. I bought myself a nice house in NYC and a Porsche. Not to show off, but because for once in my life I could have nice things without someone taking them away. But the family dynamic hadn't changed. Amara, now 29, still had the business sense of a goldfish, but the confidence of a Fortune 500 CEO. Her post-college career consisted of a series of visionary startups that were nothing more than expensive failures funded by guess who me. First was her innovative cafe that would reinvent the coffee experience. I initially refused, but my parents worked on me for weeks. My mom kept sending me business articles about coffee shop profits. Amara showed me a detailed-looking business plan with projections that seemed plausible to someone outside the industry. They promised I'd get my investment back, plus 15% within a year. After enough pressure, I reluctantly agreed to invest $25,000 with a signed contract promising repayment. The cafe lasted 9 months before closing due to unexpected market conditions. Translation: Amara never bothered to research the 3 other coffee shops within walking distance. When I brought up the contract, Amara claimed all assets had been liquidated to pay debts, so there was nothing left. My parents suggested I be patient and that Amara would pay me back when she gets on her feet. That was 4 years ago. Next came her real estate venture. Amara had watched some house flipping shows and decided she was an expert. She found a severely undervalued condo. It was undervalued because it had foundation issues she didn't spot. This time, she came prepared with contractor quotes and market analyses that looked professional. I later found out they were mostly fabricated. My parents insisted this was a sure thing and that real estate was always a safe investment. After weeks of pressure, I loaned her $40,000 again with a written agreement. 6 months later, the project collapsed when the actual renovation costs tripled her estimate. The property sold at a loss. When I asked about repayment, my mother cried about how Amara was trying her best and how family supports each other through failures. I never saw a penny back. The third time was her fashion boutique. By now, I was firmly against funding any more of Amara's dreams. But my mother went into full manipulation mode. She stopped taking my calls, then started sending me pictures of herself looking thin and exhausted. My dad told me she wasn't sleeping because of worry over Amara's future. When she ended up in the hospital for what they claimed was stress-induced exhaustion, I felt so guilty. I finally agreed to loan, not give Amara $20,000 for inventory with a strict repayment schedule. The store opened, struggled for a few months, then closed. Amara claimed she couldn't handle the crushing boredom of retail. The next week, she posted Instagram photos from a weekend trip to Miami using what I'm sure was the last of my investment. When I asked about beginning repayments, she acted offended that I would nickel and dime her while she was dealing with the trauma of business failure. Through all of this, Amara treated me like her personal ATM. No thank yous, no recognition of the sacrifices I was making, just eye rolls when I asked about returns and snarky comments about how I didn't understand her vision. My parents backed her at every turn, gaslighting me into thinking I was the problem for expecting basic accountability. 6 months ago, my tech company decided to expand into the Canadian market. As one of their top-performing branch directors with a solid track record, I was the lucky candidate selected to set up the new operation in Toronto. Not that I had much choice. You don't say no to these kinds of assignments if you want to keep climbing the corporate ladder. The promotion came with a nice salary bump to $500,000. So I agreed to the 6-month relocation. The work was brutal. 80-hour weeks dealing with local regulations, hiring staff, and setting up operations from scratch. I lived in a depressing corporate apartment surviving on takeout and 4 hours of sleep. But I got it done. The branch was operational profitable, and I was finally heading home to my house in New York. The taxi pulled up to my street. First thing I noticed, my Porsche wasn't in its usual spot. Strange, but not immediately alarming. I figured maybe my parents had moved it to the garage or taken it for maintenance while I was gone. Then I got to my front door. Key didn't work. Locks changed. That's when the alarm bell started blaring in my head. I knocked. A woman I'd never seen before answered, giving me that irritated look people reserve for unexpected visitors. "Who the hell are you?" "This is my house," I stated flatly. "Sweetheart, we've owned this house for almost 5 months. Wrong address." 5 months, I'd only been gone for 6. I wasn't hallucinating. My GPS confirmed I was at the right address. After a brief argument, she brought out the deed showing her name where mine should have been. The sale had been finalized just weeks after I left for Canada. In that moment, everything crystallized. The weekly calls from my parents asking exactly when I'd be back. My mother's overly sweet tone yesterday. "Make sure to take care of yourself, Marcel. Is work too stressful?" Not a single mention that they'd sold my house out from under me. I stood there on my former doorstep, rage building like pressure in a sealed container. This wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate. It hit me like a slap to the face. I didn't bother finishing the conversation with the new owner. I called another taxi and headed straight for my parents' house. Funny how they still had a home while I didn't. I showed up at my parents' place without warning. The second they opened the door, their faces went from fake happy to oh crap mode instantly. "Marcel." "What a surprise," my mom said, voice all high and weird. "We thought you were coming next week." I didn't bother with pleasantries, just pushed past them into the living room. "You sold my house." They exchanged this quick look between them. Not confusion, not shock, the look people give each other when they've been caught. "Marcel, calm down," my mom said in that patronizing voice I've heard my whole life. "It's not what you think." "Oh, really? Because I think you sold my house and car behind my back while I was in Canada. So please tell me what I'm missing here." My dad stepped in. "We were going to tell you. We just temporarily borrowed against your assets. In a few months, we'll get everything back to you." "Borrowed? Are you serious right now?" "You sold my house. There's a woman living there. Where's my car?" They hesitated. Then my dad finally muttered, "We sold your house and car to get $800,000 for Amara to invest in stocks." And there it was. I wanted to punch a wall but kept it together. Of course it's for Amara. It's always for Amara. My entire life, everything I own gets handed to her, every single time. "Amara has real potential in the market," my dad snapped. "As her brother, you should want to help her succeed. This time she'll make profit. This time. How many times have we done this? How many times have you taken my money for her genius ideas that always fail? Where are all these amazing returns I was promised?" My mom jumped in, fake tears already forming. This isn't Amara's fault. She's just had bad luck with her ventures. Bad luck? She's incompetent and you know it. Where is she? I want to talk to her now. She's not here, my dad said too quickly. Call her right now. As my dad reluctantly pulled out his phone, I laid it out. 1 week. You have 1 week to return my house and car. If you don't, I'm going to the police and taking all of you to court. And this time, I'm not backing down. You're all going to jail. My dad got in my face. You are ungrateful. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. Done for me, done for me. Name one thing you've ever done that wasn't for Amara. Just one. My dad stood there, mouth open, nothing coming out. That's what I thought. Sorry for the confusion. You only have one kid, Amara. I'm just the ATM you hit up whenever she needs cash. Right then, the front door slammed. Amara had arrived. Amara walked in with her stupid designer purse that probably cost more than most people's rent. She did that fake surprise thing when she saw me like she hadn't been texting with our parents this whole time. Marcel, you're back early? How was Canada? She asked in that fake sweet voice she uses when she wants something. Cut the crap, Amara. I know what you did. I was done playing games. Her whole demeanor changed instantly. Oh my God, are you seriously making a big deal about this? It's just a house. You can buy another one with your salary. Stop being so dramatic. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Just a house. My house. My car. $800,000 of my money that I worked for. She rolled her eyes like I was some annoying child. It's an investment. Obviously, I'm going to at least triple it in the market. You should actually be thanking me for letting you in on this opportunity. Letting me in. You stole from me. I was seeing red at this point. We didn't steal anything, she snapped back. Mom and Dad are on your house deed as co-owners. Remember you added them for estate planning purposes or whatever stupid reason? Years ago, I added them to the deed as co-owners for estate planning. Figured it was a harmless formality since I still lived there and paid all the bills. While I owned 60% and they owned 40%, selling the house still required signatures from all owners. That's why they went through the trouble of forging a power of attorney document to legally become me for the transaction and override my ownership rights. That doesn't give anyone the right to sell it without telling me. Amara had the nerve to actually smirk. Actually, legally, it kind of does. That's when it clicked. This wasn't just Mom and Dad's idea. This was your plan all along, wasn't it? They were just helping me like they always do? She shrugged. Like you should be doing too. That's what family is for, to help each other. Unless you're too selfish. Family doesn't steal from each other and call it help. She laughed in my face. Oh please, it's not like you can't afford it. You make what, $500,000 a year? Stop being so cheap. This could be my big break. I lost it. Like the cafe was your big break. Or the real estate disaster. Or that boutique that lasted 3 months. How many big breaks and second chances do you need before you admit you're just incompetent? Those weren't my fault, she shouted. The market was bad, my employees sucked, the location was wrong. It's never your fault, is it? Nothing ever is. You failed at literally everything you've tried because you don't actually work. You just expect everyone to hand you success. Amara stepped right up to me. You think you're so much better than me just because you got lucky with your boring job? Lucky I worked 30-hour weeks through college while you were partying on Mom and Dad's dime. I built my career while you were burning through my money on your ventures. My mom tried to jump in with some peacekeeping crap, but we both ignored her. Amara jabbed her finger at me. You know what? You're just jealous. You've always been jealous that Mom and Dad love me more than you. The room went dead silent. Even our parents looked uncomfortable. Wow, I said. At least you finally said the quiet part out loud. I'm not going to apologize for being the favorite. She continued, looking smug as hell. Maybe if you weren't such a miserable, boring person, they'd care about you too. I turned to my parents. You hear this? This is what you created. Amara cut off whatever my dad was about to say. Whatever. What are you going to do about it, Sue? Your own family. She laughed like it was the funniest joke ever. You don't have the balls. I stared her down. Watch me. Her smirk faltered for a second. You wouldn't. 1 week to return everything or I'm going to the police. And I promise you, orange is definitely not your color. She completely lost it. You ungrateful. Who the hell do you think you are after everything we've done for you? Name one thing you've ever done for me, Amara. Just one. She opened her mouth, closed it, then just screamed, Get out. Gladly, 1 week. As I walked out, I heard her tell our parents, Don't worry about him. He'll never go through with it. He's too weak. Always has been. I slammed the door on my way out. That night in my hotel room, I called Jacob, my lawyer, and one of my only real friends. We went to law school together before I dropped out to pursue tech. And he's been my go-to for legal advice ever since. I explained everything that happened, the house, the car, the confrontation with my family. Jacob didn't interrupt, just took notes and occasionally asked for clarification. After I finished, Jacob explained that this wasn't just a family dispute but likely fraud. Even with their names on the deed, they couldn't sell the place without my signature. They knew that, which is why they forged it. When I mentioned the stack of papers they had me sign at the airport before leaving for Canada, Jacob's interest immediately piqued. Classic setup. They waited until I was rushing to catch an international flight, presented multiple documents that supposedly were just for home repairs, and buried the real power of attorney papers in the middle. I admitted I barely skimmed them, trusting my family like a complete idiot. Jacob wasted no time. That same night, he started digging. He pulled property records, sale documents, and tracked down the notary who had certified the paperwork. The timeline was damning. My house went on the market just 16 days after I left for Canada. The Porsche was sold to a dealer in New Jersey 3 weeks later. The money from both sales, around $800,000, was transferred directly into a new investment account under Amara's name. My family hadn't even tried to hide their tracks, probably assuming I'd never have the spine to investigate. The most suspicious part was the notarization. Jacob discovered the notary, a guy named Kevin Mercer, had 3 previous complaints for suspicious notarizations in the past year alone. All 3 cases involved family members authorizing sales of property for relatives who were conveniently unable to attend the notarization. 2 complaints were dropped. 1 was settled privately. Red flags everywhere. During discovery, Jacob subpoenaed Amara's phone records. The calls between her and this notary started 2 weeks before I left for Canada. Not my parents. Amara. She had found him, arranged everything, and coordinated the timing. There were also texts between her and my parents discussing how to present the papers to me and making sure I didn't read too carefully. This wasn't an impulsive decision or a desperate move in a financial emergency. This was a premeditated theft. The next morning, I told Jacob to file the lawsuit. No warnings, no second chances, no family meeting to discuss it. They had their chance to come clean during our confrontation and chose to double down instead. Jacob filed criminal charges for fraud and civil charges for the return of my property plus damages. The papers were served 3 days later. My phone blew up immediately. First, my parents calling back to back then Amara, then extended family. I blocked my parents and Amara, but answered my Uncle Stefan's call. He tried the whole "but they're your family" guilt trip. So I asked him what he would have done if his father had sold his house and given the money to my dad without telling him. His silence told me everything I needed to know. I explained they were telling everyone it was just a loan that I was overreacting about, and invited him to attend the trial to hear the truth firsthand. A week after they were served, I was leaving my temporary apartment when I spotted my parents' car parked across the street. They had been waiting for me. My mom rushed out crying, my dad following with that stern, "We need to talk" face he always used when laying down the law. Amara stayed in the back seat, just watching. I tried to walk past them to my rental car, but my dad grabbed my arm. He went from angry to pleading, saying they could fix this without courts and lawyers. My mom was sobbing about family loyalty and how I was destroying them. The same manipulation tactics they'd used my entire life. I pulled my arm away and told them the only way to fix this was to return my house, my car, and my money, plus pay for my hotel and legal fees. My dad's face changed instantly. He wasn't there to make things right. He was there to make me drop the lawsuit. When he realized I wasn't backing down, he called me ungrateful, selfish, a disappointment, the usual greatest hits. That's when Amara finally got out of the car. She looked mad, not sad or sorry. She walked right up to me and said they'd found people who would testify that I had gambling problems and had asked them to sell my assets to cover debts. Complete lies, but the kind that could complicate a court case. She smiled when she said it, like she was enjoying this. I just laughed and told her to make sure these witnesses were ready to commit perjury under oath. Then I pointed at the security camera above my apartment entrance that had recorded our entire conversation, including her threat. Her face dropped. I got in my car and left them standing there. The next 2 months were a blur of depositions, evidence gathering, and legal maneuvers. Jacob was ruthless, tracking down every document, every text message, every call log. He found the real estate agent who had listed my house and got her to admit that Amara had told her I was having financial problems and needed to sell quickly. He got the car dealer to confirm that my dad had presented a power of attorney that I had supposedly signed despite being out of the country. And most damning of all, he got the bank record showing Amara had already lost $150,000 of my money on risky stock bets within weeks of getting it. The trial was set for 6 months after filing. Normally, trials like this take even longer, but with the clear evidence of forged documents and the notary already being investigated by authorities for other cases, Jacob managed to get our case prioritized. Those 6 months felt like forever, but were actually lucky timing compared to most fraud cases. 2 months after filing the lawsuit, we finally faced off in court. I sat with Jacob at the plaintiff's table, while my parents and Amara were across the aisle with their high-priced lawyer. They all looked way too confident, which worried me for a second. I spotted Uncle Stefan and several other family members in the gallery. Perfect. They needed to see this show firsthand. My parents' lawyer stood up first, some slick guy in an expensive suit who probably charged $800 an hour. He started his opening statement about how my family had done nothing wrong and how I had voluntarily signed a power of attorney giving them full control over my assets. He even had the nerve to call me ungrateful, suggesting this was just a family dispute blown out of proportion by my vindictiveness. Amara's lawyer tried to keep a straight face as he argued that she was just a passive recipient of family financial planning. He claimed she had no idea how the documents were handled and wasn't involved in any fraud. It was weak. You could tell even he didn't believe it. The judge looked skeptical but let him finish out of politeness more than anything. Meanwhile, my family sat there looking smug as hell. My mom had that fake sad face she always used when playing the victim. My dad looked stern and righteous like he always did when laying down the law. Amara wasn't even trying to hide her smirk. Then Jacob stood up and dropped the bomb. Your Honor, on October 23, 2021, when the defendants claimed my client signed a power of attorney, he was not in the United States. He was in Canada on a 6-month business assignment that began a week earlier. The courtroom got real quiet. Even the judge leaned forward, suddenly interested. The notarized power of attorney is therefore invalid. The notary engaged in fraudulent conduct, which is a criminal offense. Right on cue, the courtroom doors opened and 2 cops walked in with Kevin Mercer, the notary, in handcuffs. My parents' faces went white. Amara's smirk disappeared instantly. Jacob explained that after we filed the lawsuit, authorities had investigated and found that Mercer had accepted a $20,000 bribe from Amara to falsify the notarization, despite knowing I was out of the country. He presented bank records showing Amara's cash withdrawal the day before the notarization, emails between her and Mercer arranging everything, and the text messages she sent to my parents. Don't worry, I found someone who will do it. Marcel will never know. By the time he gets back from Canada, everything will be done and we'll have the money. When questioned by the judge, Mercer admitted everything. He said Amara paid him directly and coordinated the whole thing. He tried to cover his ass by claiming he had called me to verify my identity, and I had mentioned being in Canada during the call. That part was true. He had called me about what he claimed were routine document updates, but never mentioned anything about selling property. He deliberately misled me during that call, asking vague questions that seemed related to my work abroad, while actually documenting proof he had spoken to me about the power of attorney. My dad lost it when Mercer pointed the finger at Amara. He yelled something about being the one who paid Mercer, basically admitting to the bribery himself. The judge threatened to hold him in contempt if he didn't shut up. The evidence kept piling up. Jacob showed the real estate listing that went up just 2 weeks after I left for Canada. He presented bank statements showing how the $800,000 from my house and car went straight into a new investment account under Amara's name. He even had screenshots of Amara's trading activity showing she'd already lost almost $150,000 on risky stock bets within weeks, leaving about $650,000 of my money still in the account by the time we went to court. The courtroom was dead silent by the end. The family members in the gallery looked stunned. My parents looked completely defeated, but Amara, she just looked pissed. Not sorry, not scared, just mad that she got caught. The verdict came down faster than I expected. The judge didn't waste time once he saw the mountain of evidence. My parents were found guilty of financial fraud and document forgery. No surprise there. Hard to argue when your fingerprints are all over fake documents and bribed notaries. Their sentence 8 years in prison each. Plus they had to pay me $1,200,000. The $800,000 they stole, plus $400,000 in penalties and legal fees. The judge ordered their house and remaining assets seized and liquidated when they couldn't come up with the cash. Turns out, they'd spent a chunk of it already on Amara's investments and their own expenses. Guess they thought I'd never find out or never fight back. Whoops. Amara got hit harder than anyone expected. 5 years in prison for fraud, conspiracy, and bribing a notary. The prosecution made a big deal about her text messages showing she orchestrated the whole thing. The judge clearly didn't appreciate her Marcel will never know attitude. The cherry on top was the additional 3 years of probation and a $100,000 fine. The look on her face when they read her sentence was almost worth losing my house. Kevin Mercer, the notary, got 10 years and lost his license permanently. Turns out Amara wasn't his first rodeo. Prosecutors found 2 other cases where he'd done similar shady notarizations. 3 strikes, and you're out, buddy. As they were being let out, my mom tried the guilt trip one last time, asking if I was happy now that I'd destroyed the family. My dad just glared. Amara, true to form, didn't apologize. She just muttered something about how she should have taken more when she had the chance. Even facing prison time, she couldn't admit she did anything wrong. Classic Amara. The family reactions were exactly what you'd expect. Half of them stopped talking to me completely. The other half split between you did what you had to do, and how could you do this to your own parents? Uncle Stefan was surprisingly supportive. Turns out my parents had borrowed money from him too and never paid it back. Funny how that works. 3 years later, I'm doing fine. Got a new house with only my name on the deed, lesson learned, and a promotion at work. My parents are still in prison with 5 years left on their sentences. They send the occasional letter that's either asking for forgiveness or blaming me for ruining their retirement, depending on their mood that week. I stopped reading them after the first year. Amara got released early on good behavior after serving 3 years. Last I heard, she's living with some distant cousin and trying to start yet another business venture. Something about artisanal pet accessories or whatever. I'm sure she's found someone else to bankroll it. I don't spend much time thinking about what happened anymore. I've got a small circle of friends who know the whole story and don't judge. Holidays are quieter, sure, But there's something nice about not dreading family gatherings, where I'd inevitably get asked to fund Amara's latest scheme. Do I regret taking them to court? Not for a second. Sometimes blood isn't thicker than water. Sometimes it's just the stuff that gets spilled when someone stabs you in the back. The way I see it, I didn't send my family to jail. They sent themselves there when they decided to commit fraud. I just made sure they faced the consequences like anyone else would. So yeah, I'm that guy who sent his family to prison. But if you got played for $800,000 by people who were supposed to love you, you'd probably do the same thing. Edit 1. Wow. Thanks for the insane support. Didn't expect this to blow up. For everyone asking, yes, I filed both criminal and civil charges. My lawyer shout out to Jacob was ruthless, and the evidence was airtight. Edit 2. No, I don't talk to anyone in my family anymore. Not even the cousins who tried to play neutral. You either stood with me, or you stood with thieves.